What is up, everyone? My name is Braden. Thank you so much for tuning into my YouTube channel. Today we are working on my Volvo 740 SE, bit of a sleeper over here. It is a stock Volvo B230 FT, well, not stock anymore. It's got forged rods and, you know, a bit of a turbo upgrade, and it also has a Nissan CDOA out of a 2008 or 2009 350Z, CD09, CD009, whatever you want to call it. The really beefy 6-speed transmission that everyone wants. Yes, I put one in a Volvo. We're mixing it up with the oil cooler a little bit today, which I'll explain in a second. But the reason I am out here is 51 degrees. It's super nice for a winter day here in Idaho. So I'm going to get this situated because we are closer and closer. If you watched my last video, you know we just put an IPD Turbo VX camshaft in my head that I just had built by a machine shop. In addition, my clutch is over 500 miles. If you follow my channel, you know that I got about 500 miles on this car before I blew the head gasket. I put a junkyard head with 345,000 miles on it and didn't get it machined because I thought, you know, it's a Volvo, it'll be fine. It wasn't. It lifted the head. No big deal. We got a new head. It's built now, yada, yada, yada. Clutch has 500 miles. All of this to say that now all I have to do is put this thing back together, and I've been waiting for a day where it was tolerable to be outside, and then we can make good on my promise for this car to make 400 crank horsepower. And I say 400 because I called it Project 400 because 400 sounds way cooler than 300, but 300 wheel is about 400 crank, and that's what manufacturers do too, so don't get mad at me. Let me explain what we're doing here. You can see where that oil filter is. Those two shiny bolts are blocking off oil lines because that is an oil cooler. In stock format, those two are unblocked and have lines going to an air oil cooler that mounts right about here, but we can't do that on account of this big turbo and this fat intercooler being here. Fortunately, there is an OEM plus type solution. 940s came with a coolant cooled oil cooler that goes in pretty much the exact same location, and lucky me, a junkyard right by my house not too long ago had one. So I picked up all this stuff. You can see there's a few little pieces, knickknacks here and there that we're gonna have to patty whack to get into place, but overall it should be a pretty easy bolt together, just little replacement here, and then Bob's your uncle, we got ourselves some oil cooling. I thought about deleting the factory oil cooler and just leaving it as it is, but for one, it's leaking super bad because of the seal, and hopefully this one doesn't do that. The issue is in here, the actual seal for the oil filter to butt up against on the one that's on the car. So hopefully that one doesn't have any leaking issues. If so, I guess we'll just take it all back apart and deal with it. I thought about leaving no oil cooler on there in general and found out people have blown up cars that way, even though it's a Volvo, and you know, there's plenty of people who do plus T without the oil cooler. So I was hugging the line a little bit there, but it's going to have a pretty substantial amount of power, so we should just go ahead and do it. So that's what I did. Also, I'm testing a lavalier mic today. I'm mic'd up, that's why the audio quality probably sounds a million times better than it usually does. Basically, I'm trying to see if filming multiple shots with one long audio file is feasible for my work. And yeah, so step one, we just got to get this huge 32mm socket on a breaker bar and bust that guy loose. So let's do that. We are going to slide this guy under there because it is, you know, an oil cooler interchange. Hoping though, in my head, it's not going to leak that much oil because all the oil's in the oil pan, and that's higher than the oil pan. I guess we'll see how that goes. I have to admit, the sun being out is super nice, and it is warmer for sure than it has been, but there's a little bit of a breeze and it's killing me. That seems probably looser than it should have been, but okay. There's definitely oil coming out. Go figure. Oh, well, almost none. I was right, I guess. That's cool. Okay, well, that's the easy part of this whole job. Next, we have to remove this coolant pipe. As you can see, I wasn't super concerned about keeping in place when we installed it, but there is, I believe, a 10mm bolt or nut on the back side of this we have to remove to take it out. If you have a loved one that builds cars, buy them instead of ratcheting wrenches. Oh, we'll go ahead and not tighten that. That doesn't seem great. Get off there. All right, new plan. Penetrating fluid. Get that all nice and penetrated. A shorter 10, but that's also a 12 point like the ratchet or the wrench. I don't think that's going to do me much good. Let's see. What could be more fun than needing pliers to take a socket off of a socket holder? Nothing boosts the old morale like that. I don't know how well that's going to focus on that, but there you go. It's got a bolt head on the other side, so when I found that out, I was like, oh, it must not have been rounding, it was just turning the bolt. But no, I definitely rounded that nut off, so we're gonna have to get a new nut for that before I proceed with the installation of the new one. But there you go. That seal looks a little unhappy. Okay, so that right there is the coolant return line for the factory turbo. I've got about 8 cranks on it with this 18mm wrench, and it's very rusty and very stuck. So it's not pressurized, which is great, but this is the drain for the new oil cooler, and you can see the turbo drain goes right there, but this turbo doesn't have water cooling, so I'm just gonna cap that. We'll do a little better job here in a second. I'll get back to you guys when I get this out. Yeah, wow, hey, imagine that. You pull a water plug and water comes out. Neat. Okay, so the fact that the return line is still on this for the turbo leads me to believe that just having that cap on there would be fine, because this isn't pressurized. But just to be safe, I ran some vinyl tape over it super tight, because I didn't have a hose clamp that I felt was doing anything, because I didn't have any quite small enough to get around that fitting. So is it stupid and looks dumb? Yes. Is anyone ever going to see it? No. So now we just gotta get this guy in there. Okay, so I just test fit that whole ensemble in here with the line going underneath my return line, and it does indeed all work. I had to take my oiled feed line off for the turbo. It's all right, these things happen. So yeah, now I just got painstakingly 1/4 turn at a time. All right, we're getting close here. Got the return fitting. Yeah, I know I made a huge mess over here. Don't worry, we'll clean it up. But that guy's in there, and it's in its position now, and I got the new seal on the end of that. My flashlight's on over here. It's starting to get cold. It is still winter, and it's still supposed to get down to like 30 degrees, 22 degrees, something dumb like that. So I just need to get the new oil interchange. I don't know what that's called. Interchange, we'll go with that. Mounted, and I'm going to try and get the drain line attached there, although I don't know if I'm going to be able to tighten it without getting underneath the car. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I don't know if claiming this is a tight squeeze is sufficient for getting the idea across of how ridiculously limited on space we are in this thing. But because I rounded the head off of that nut, I'm not going to put this in place yet. I'm probably, I took the seal off my other one, which was new when I put it in when we finished this car. But I should probably just go ahead and get a new seal for that. I'm gonna just puking coolant everywhere, do this the right way. But yeah, so just gotta finish, got everything tightened down. I'm gonna take some Scotch-Brite and some brake clean to these cylinder walls real quick. Just kind of clean the rust up a little bit, and probably put some oil in there to keep them fresh. All right, friends, I know it's a GoPro and you guys can't see anything because it's dark, but there you go. That whole project is done. Just been chatting with a friend over here, so. But I didn't get to film as much as I wanted to because I was kind of racing against it getting dark and, more importantly, cold. I'm freezing, so I'm going to finish cleaning all this stuff up, and we are going to be done here. But yeah, you know the drill. Press the buttons and do the things. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.